Okay, we are going to dive in and talk about how we can improve our selections. So from the last video, we have my friend, the watermelon dude, and we remember that I made a quick little selection just with the quick selection tool right here. And now I just want to go in and I want to refine the selection a little bit. So I'm going to just zoom in, and the biggest issue, the most glaring issue with this selection is when I made the quick selection, it didn't pick up this little watermelon stem. And so I want to include this in the selection. So I'm going to zoom in. Remember, to zoom in, it's Command plus. To zoom out, Command minus. And remember, when we zoom in, we can always scroll around our image by either moving this red box in the navigator around, or by hitting the space bar and kind of zooming around like that. So we see that the selection's pretty good, but there is some, right down here, there's some unclean edges, but overall it's a pretty good selection. So the glaring issue, like I said, is we have to get this little watermelon stem in there. So I think the important thing to remember is if I zoom out, what is the selection and what is not the selection, right? So right now we have this kind of broken into two sections. We have the selection, which in this case is the background. The background is what we are selecting. My friend in the watermelon helmet is who we are not selecting, right? So the reason I bring that up is we always have to think about plus and minus. Are we taking away or are we adding to the selection? So if we look at his little watermelon stem, we see that it is actually part of the background. It is part of the background, and I want to remove it from that part of the background, right? I want to remove it from the selection. So to get these little finer details, you're just going to zoom in, just like this, and notice that when I'm not touching anything with the quick select tool at this point, it is going to be taking away from the selection. That's what I want. So now I'm just going to start clicking and dragging around this watermelon stem, and we see that it's doing a pretty good job. Once I start getting in this narrower area, I'm just going to make my brush. Remember, the quick selection is a brush, so we can make it bigger or smaller with the brackets key. The brackets key are right under plus and minus. The left bracket makes the brush smaller. The right bracket makes it bigger. So let's make it pretty small. And I'm just going to kind of just scroll through here and slowly try to get all of this little watermelon stem included without much of the background, or removed. Without much of the background removed. Okay, and almost there. Alright, that looks pretty good, but now we need to add a couple. There's little chunks like this that are now removed from the background. So remember, if I hit Shift on the keyboard, I can paint over that really quickly, and it will tighten up the selection a little bit. Oop, there's a little part right there that needs some fixing, and plus there. Alright. I could zoom in even closer, get to like the pixel level, maybe make my brush really big, and really tighten this thing up here. This is looking good to me. This is a really good selection. Okay, now we see that we're pretty good here. We could fuss with this even more, but I think we're actually pretty good. Oh, except for down here, what's going on? So once again, if you do make the mistake like I just did of plus and minus and like, oops, I'm adding, I'm taking away, not a big deal, because you can just paint right over it, or you can always hit Command Z to go backwards in time, or go to the History tab. So I want to add to the selection, so I'm going to hold down Shift. I want to hold down Shift, and I'm just kind of tightening up this selection because it kind of got a little weird on me here. Alright, let's take a little out there, a little out there, and a little bit in there. Alright. We could fuss with this all day long if we wanted. It's looking pretty good to me. Remember, you can also use other tools, right? I could go something easy like this. I could just say, oh, well, I don't want that to be part of this little area right here. I could just subtract that. I could subtract that. That's just kind of an easy way. I could even clean this up a little bit with the lasso tool, except for I just did it the opposite way. So instead of subtract, I want to add. All right, so now we have a pretty good selection here. So now let's just cruise around the edge and clean up the edge with the quick selection tool. I'm going to make that part of the background. I got to add it. I'm just slowly it works better when you're zoomed in, right? Remember, don't get too lost in the weeds, because remember, you're zoomed in really, really close to this image at this point. And sometimes it's easy to like get at the pixel level and realize that like, oh, you're actually kind of overdoing it, because this is actually looking pretty good to me already. And remember, this is, we're not at the end of the lesson this week, so this is probably not the most refined way that we're going to learn how to do this stuff, but it is a pretty refined way. So I'm just going to slowly go through and fix this selection up a little bit here. It's looking good to me. Down here where the flash hit the watermelon, it gets a little weird. That's okay. Pretty easy to fix, just clicking. Once again, if something like that, I might just go in here and subtract it with the lasso tool. So I kind of use these tools all together, right? And I think maybe I use these really unrefined tools like the lasso tool more so than a lot of people, just because I think they're kind of easy to just like click on and fix something really quick with. All right, so I think we're pretty good there. We can go through and fix this stuff. All right, let's zoom out. All right, and here is the selection of my watermelon dude. Okay, so now you're like, okay, you made the selection. What do you want to do now? Well, now what I want to do is I want to get rid of the background, and I want to replace the background with something else. So this is kind of like photo compositing 101, right? So you take the photo of the watermelon dude, the guy dressed up like a watermelon with goggles on, in front of a plain background, and okay, it looks cool, but now I want to put in a different background. So what I'm going to do is I want to get rid of this background that I selected. That's why I went through all those steps of actually selecting it. So to do that, I'm going to go over here to the background layer, and I'm going to hit this little lock icon. Once I do that, we notice that the background turns into layer 0. With that done, I can now hit the delete key, and we see that I just deleted the background. I just got rid of that part that I selected. So now I have this image of my watermelon friend with no background behind it. So I have this other photo right here that I got from the internet that's just a watermelon. So what I'm going to do is I want to paste this image into the watermelon dude photo so that I have him standing in front of this watermelon scene. So to do that, I have to select this image, copy it, and paste it onto the watermelon dude photo. So to do that, I would go select all. The keyboard shortcut for that is Command A. I would go edit, copy. The keyboard shortcut is Command C. Now I'm going to go to watermelon dude, and I'm going to go Command V or paste. Edit, paste. Boom. All right, now I have this little small watermelon photo that I got from the internet over the top of the guy in a watermelon outfit. So I want to actually stretch this canvas to make it bigger. Stretch the canvas of the watermelon scene so that it fits the canvas of the watermelon guy. So to do that, I'm going to do what's called free transforming. So to do that, I'm going to go Edit, Free Transform. And free transform is a tool where you can alter this any way that you want, right? We could shift it, we could really like tweak it, we can rotate it, we can do whatever we want with it. I want to be a little careful with it because I don't want to make it too weird looking. Or we could stretch it. So I'm just going to stretch it so that it fills the whole canvas of the watermelon dude. Now, you could get yourself into trouble because if you use a too low res of an image from the web and try to stretch it this much, it might become very pixelated and fall apart. This image of the watermelon actually holds up pretty well, so I'm not really worried about it falling apart. But if you ever are trying to stretch an image this big, it might fall apart, and that just means you're going to have to find a higher res image or make one with your own camera. So now that I have the watermelon there, the most important part of the free transform tool is once you have it where you want it, you have to hit return on the keyboard. What that does is it applies the transformation. So now I have this over the top of my watermelon dude, but I want him to be visible. So I'm going to go over to my layer stack, and I'm going to drag layer 0 above layer 1. And now I have watermelon dude selected from the background and pasted over an image of a watermelon. We're making art in this class, I'm telling you. We're making art. So you see that this is a really, really useful tool, right? This is how you can photo composite. You can make, right? You can take a picture of somebody, select them, and put them in front of a sunset. Put them in front of, right, Half Dome at Yosemite. Any of that stuff. This is how you can do it with that. So, in the next demo, I am going to go into the whole concept of refining edges and select and mask tool. So we're refining even further with the selection tools. So I'll see you there.